This podcast about cryptocurrencies and NFTs is for entertainment purposes only. No part of this podcast should be construed as financial advice of any kind. It's the SGG podcast. We're here as our podcasters. Say hello.
Hi there. I'm Peter.
Hello. Sorry.
Don't be afraid to introduce yourselves.
Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins. So we got Jordan joining us. Jordan.
Hello.
Schaefer. We got Chad Jutner, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Hello.
Yep. Chad Jutner with sports. Peter Lawrence with weather.
Hi.
What's the temperature? Hot.
I think it's
And I'm Kyle
55
Bacher.
degrees.
Yeah. And today, Jordan, Chad, and Peter are going to have an intelligent conversation about cryptocurrencies. And then I'm going to try to say stupid, fun things because I don't know anything about them. No, it's your job today to school me, gentlemen.
Here's why this is actually super timely, right? I have been thoroughly invested in Dogecoin since the get-go, right? And right now I'm disappointed because for today, it's only up 50%, right? Like I'm like, only 50%. Come on. What is that? What are we? Bitcoin? No, come on. This is Doge. It has literally shot up over the last week. Dogecoin has shot up 507% since last Friday. Literally the time of my life over here.
Which is the best, right?
Oh God. I mean, yeah.
How did they start?
What's the driving catalyst behind the recent value up?
So
I
today,
think Chad's been promoting it on
Yeah,
the internet.
I've been actively out there.
It's all he talks about.
Today, or last night, it was Elon. Elon did a post. So Elon tweets, and all of a sudden it shoots up. Or Mark Cuban somehow has it so that when you go to a Mavericks game in Dallas, you can use Dogecoin to pay for a hot dog, right? Like all of a sudden, like when those tiny little things started to become real, Dogecoin started to actually have value, right? So it was sitting at like 3 cents to 5 cents forever, right? Down to a penny.
How big is a Dogecoin? Is that like one of those giant stone coins of the Yap Islanders, or?
Yeah,
it's as big as you want it to be. You can make it as big as your mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. What kind of printer do you have? So I appreciate your excitement about Doggy Coin, which is what I thought it was called before Chad actually schooled me on that. How do these cryptocurrencies start and how do they work? Give me just a quick primer. I know
there's this thing called the blockchain.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna screw this up, so you guys fill me in here. Basically, every cryptocurrency is built on what's called a blockchain, which just means that it's like a public ledger. It is there's a transaction that happens, right? So there is a transfer of a digital coin to somebody else from person A to person B. And so that gets recorded in what's called the blockchain, which is just a fancy word for a public ledger. And everybody in the community has to basically approve that, or like not approve it, but validate the ledger, right? So if you try and make a fake transaction, the rest of the community is like, whoa, that is not legit, right? So, and then it just gets rejected and it doesn't happen. That's the 50,000 foot view. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to it than that. But basically, a blockchain is a public ledger. What's happening, run by the members of the community who would actually be holding digital currency in whatever crypto you're in, right?
So does everybody have a copy of the ledger and they all synchronize, or? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
To double down on what Jordan is saying, so what it means to mine Bitcoin, right, or any blockchain ledger-based cryptocurrency, right? Like you're an auditor against every transaction that goes against that blockchain. And once you verified a certain amount of transactions, like if you verify 1 megabyte of transactions against the blockchain, you get rewarded for your efforts, right? And so that translates into 0.00001 or whatever the validation, whatever reward system they have. It translates into that much Bitcoin, right? So you can still mine Bitcoin, and you probably should. It's actually great. And you get rewarded with essentially pennies, right? It used to be more, but I think it keeps kind of it gets exponentially less. And that's it. Like that's
yeah. Yeah, what you're saying, how it gets exponentially less. Like in the beginning, so these are like basically like a logic encryption puzzle that you're validating by finding the solution to this puzzle. Now, this is mining, right? So, and in the beginning, if you were the one to solve that, or your group was the one to solve that, you were guaranteed like I don't remember what it was in the beginning, but like we'll just say like some power of 2. You were guaranteed 64 Bitcoin, whatever it is. It was more than that, but then because there's only a finite amount of Bitcoin ever, like that's the design of the system, there's only a finite amount of Bitcoin ever available. As the blockchain grows and gets longer and you have to like solve these little authentication puzzles, less and less is rewarded to the solver, right? So then it just like decreases by a power of 2, and it's kind of like the your event, what the heck is that called? You're eventually, it's like a limit, right? It's never going to go down to 0, but it's just going to increasingly just get smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller, until all the Bitcoin is actually released to the world. And that I should say, that is how Bitcoins are released to the public, right? So by solving that, then there's another chunk of Bitcoin out in the public. It was not just ever granted like, here, you get 500 Bitcoin, right? And that's how these things get released into the community for use, for transactions or whatever you want to do with it, or store it on your digital wallet or whatever. But so the longer the bit chain goes on, the more that's released out into the community for use. And I don't remember what the exact number is for the amount that will ever be, but like it's kind of like a half-life thing where it just slowly, like it gets halved every so many transactions or something like that. So
yeah. there's a point where it's no longer advantageous.
Yeah.
Like the power to run that computer is more expensive than the return on that investment, and you just are going to stop.
Yes.
I wonder if these giant cloud providers with these huge data centers use like extra cycles during downtime and stuff to mine Bitcoin.
Well, they did, and that has actually been a concern. Like the environmental impact of Bitcoin was something that some folks actually tried to bring up as a legitimate concern about why mining Bitcoin is bad, right? Because you got folks now, instead of like shutting off their computer at the end of the night, they're leaving them running, mining Bitcoin. They'll find any machine in the house, plug it into the internet, mine Bitcoin, right? Like it might have had a minimal impact on the grid, right? But like I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on if it was genuinely bad for the environment to be mining that many Bitcoin, right? Now, what this is just Bitcoin. There's other cryptocurrencies, right? And they don't all have that hard limit, right? So like Dogecoin, Dogecoin adds like 1,000. I forget the number, Jordan. I think it's like a couple of thousand a day, an hour. I forget the time period, but like that Dogecoin will consistently allow more Dogecoin to exist in the world, and thank God that they do, because it is delightful. So, Bitcoin is kind of special, right? Like the reason Bitcoins are at like $63,000 per Bitcoin right now is because there's only ever going to be a little bit of them, and you want a piece of that action. Dogecoin, even though it's having a ridiculous week, right? Like up 500%. I'm crazy pumped. At the same time, you know, there's not a finite amount of them. So the value for that thing probably has a ceiling that is, you know, not going to be $60,000. I'm guessing I'm not going to be able to retire off the 2,500 Dogecoin that I have.
But also, I mean, also the Dogecoin in its initial inception was created just as a lark, right?
It was a joke, yeah. And
yeah.
So there's a lot of other ones like Dogecoin, right? Like they call people call them like altcoins, right? Where they're literally just created as a joke. And Dogecoin is the same way. Source code for the Dogecoin project is on GitHub. You can download their source and look through it and, you know, see what they're doing. And the guys said, yeah, this is a joke. And then all of a sudden now this joke made a few people millionaires, and made me at last check a thousandaire. So
nice.
At last check.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've been ever since Jordan. Ever since when did Dogecoin start to just go nuts? It was like 4 days ago. I think it really just blasted, and it is still a joke, right? Like the main it's a Reddit joke, right? So there's another aspect to Dogecoin that is going to be a little bit familiar. The Reddit community, Wall Street Bets. Now, this Wall Street Bets community, these are the same guys that sent GameStop through the roof and AMC and whatever other stocks.
Yeah, because they were fighting. They were fighting against those Wall Street guys that were shorting stocks.
Yeah. Well, these guys just changed one of their long-held policies to allow cryptocurrencies to be discussed in their forum, which seems silly, but like that also affected Dogecoin to some degree because they're all, you know, they're a little excited about it now. And I am, again,
get on the hype train.
Yes. Since Dogecoin was created as a joke, or a lark, I don't know what you call it. Is it any less secure or?
No, the technology, the backbone of this stuff is solid, right?
It's
like,
all the same, well, it's not all the same, but I mean, the principle behind it is still the same as like Bitcoin. And the foundations of Bitcoin, I mean, there was a whole white paper discussing the idea behind what became Bitcoin, right? So the just basically decentralized currency, right? And so, and then that spawned into all the like what it became, a public ledger that's very almost as secure as you can think possible, right? Unless you're somehow able to taint like the majority of the community to approving fraudulent transactions. Like it'll never be, you can never fake a entry, right? Supposedly, theoretically.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you can, it's all over with.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everybody loses at the same time, or you have to go to a point in time.
Yeah.
But what's backing the Bitcoin, these cryptocurrencies? Like if all of a sudden everybody wanted to get their money out of it, you'd have to sell it to other people? Like it's not, there's no bank there with a big thing of gold.
Supply and demand. That's
it's just, I mean, it's the same idea as the stock market, right? So I have stock, I'm going to sell it to somebody else who wants that stock. Well, the valuation is just like whatever price the market agrees on at the time, right?
So if all of a sudden everybody woke up one morning across the world, all people, and thought this stuff really doesn't have any value, it's just like bits and bytes in a database.
Yep.
That's all it is.
And that happens every once in a while.
What are we doing here? Like I can't go in an emergency. I can't go and pull all my money out of the Bitcoin now because no one else believes in it either. So now I'm just hosed.
That is a reality.
I just tanked Bitcoin and Dodge. now.
So yeah, right.
You tried.
So I mean, a few years ago, when Bitcoin was like really starting to charge up the hill the first time, it went from like 3,000 at the time, and it rallied all the way to like 17 or 20,000, like very quickly, like within a month or something like that. And then there was a giant like reset because everybody like that was made fresh millionaires pulled out, right? So that they're doing what you said, but then that means other people own it too, right? They sold it for 20K. Like it's still there. It's just whatever.
It's just this big blob of amorphous nebulous value is like just floating out there.
But that's just
being
like a
propped
dollar.
up by all the people that own it.
It's like
which
you said, it's just like the dollar though.
Yeah, it is now that we're kind of off the gold standard and all that.
Well, it's just like gold.
But really, all money is a placeholder for value, the value of a product, the value of a service. And so as long as we're all okay with it, that this means that this many dollars means that'll get me this can of pop, or somebody will pick this thing up and carry it this far and set it down for me for this much value, so that like it's just a resource or a placeholder for resources or services or
it's just it's in place of
or anything that has
actually
value.
being a bartering system, right? Instead of trading whatever commodity A for commodity B or service A for goods, you're just saying we're going to put in a common thing here, which happens to be a currency that everybody agrees on, right? And even if it's digital nowadays, which it's starting to be more, like Chad was saying earlier, that the Mavericks games, like because Cuban allows the Dogecoin to be accepted as payment, I mean, that's validating that this is worth something now. And that's, I mean, because more and more people are accepting that as payment for places, not that specifically, but cryptocurrency in general, it's validating that has value, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Who was the NBA guy, Jordan, that he insisted that instead of paying him in actual U.S. currency, like there's athletes now that are trying to get paid.
I thought it was NFL, but yeah, there was basically some guy that said pay me in Bitcoin. Yeah. And what happened? As far as I know, he didn't actually get paid in Bitcoin. He just like got his salary and then like dumped it all into buying Bitcoin immediately. So same difference, but I mean, like it's reached critical mass to a point where it's becoming a real thing, not just that it's for Bitcoin, especially nerds. It's not just a nerd thing. I'm gonna have my Bitcoin in my digital wallet. It's in the zeitgeist now, right? And it's once, like a lot of these things are going to be celebrity driven, right? Like Elon gets behind Dogecoin, Cuban gets behind Dogecoin, and then all of a sudden my mom's asking me, hey, what are they talking about? What does that mean? And then I'm like, all right. And then she repeats it to her, but so, and that seems to be culturally like just kind of where we're going now is a celebrity, a voice, somebody with followers, somebody with clout will pump something and then it has value. And
which one gets the most attention, which one wins out, like will push other ones aside.
Well, I don't even know that that's the case because there's room for all of these. It's just nobody's necessarily getting pushed out. Like there's another one, there's an altcoin specifically just called meme, right? And it started just like Doge. It was just a joke. And it traded at but they had like a floor of like $1, right? Like, he want a meme,
okay,
right? And now it's like $2,000, right? And nobody even knows, like it's just out there. It just has value to the people that care about this stuff. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I don't know. I made a few bucks off of it, so I'm going to call it good.
I think have you sold them?
Have I sold them? No.
Yeah. Then you haven't made any money on them.
I have not made any. Well, Yeah, I took out my initial.
Did you mine them or did you buy them?
So here's what I did. I was at a bar in Northeast Minneapolis with my kid, and he told me about this ridiculous cryptocurrency. And I'm a huge fan of stupid things. And this is about as stupid as they get. So I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. I could either put $200 into pull tabs right now, or I could put $200 on this. So I put $200 on it. So I bought them through the Robinhood app, which is the wrong way to buy cryptocurrency. Don't use Robinhood ever.
Right.
Well, no, they're the ones that are like, aren't they doing some shady stuff by stopping trading on you couldn't buy GameStop anymore at Robinhood for like a day.
And they did the same thing as Doge has been going through the roof to the moon, as they say. There was issues even today and yesterday with trading Dogecoin. But the biggest reason not to do it, yes, shady company, kind of a weird, mysterious business model. But also, if you buy Dogecoin on Robinhood, you can't transfer them out to a different wallet, right? Like you have all of your cryptocurrencies exist in like this e-wallet.
You have cryptocurrencies that you bought, but you don't actually have the currency, right?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily have dollar bills anymore either, but my bank account says I have this many of them, and as long as it's above water, I'm happy with that. And cryptocurrencies is the same thing, right? I don't ever see one. I'm never.
So you want to pick a good wallet. You don't want that Costanza wallet.
Well,
one more receipt.
Yeah. It looks like a roller in a pocket.
Yeah.
No, you don't want that, but like you do want to make sure it's a trade-off, right? Because some of these wallets, they charge you a percentage when you buy them and sell them. Like they get a tiny cut. Robinhood doesn't do that, but it's a shady company and you can't transfer them out. And then regulatory is a whole unexplored part of this whole thing. Like the government has no idea what the heck to do with any of this.
Well, is it the point that this kind of floats outside of any government?
Well,
it's not. Yeah, it's decentralized is the whole point, right? So the U.S. government or any other country is not regulating or not backing it, right? So it's not saying I'm going to set what the price of a dollar is, but for them, that doesn't stop them from being like, I'm going to tax you on your gains, because you made money.
That's
right. So they're trying to regulate what happens with them, right? But they're not the ones financially backing any of it, like the dollar, right?
Right.
And that's where I did my taxes. I got this old guy that does my taxes for me, and he asked me about that. He's like, hey, I know you do something with computers. I don't know what, but you nerds love these Bitcoins. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't have much in there, right? And this was when I didn't. And he's like, okay, good, because the government has started to notice, and you will get taxed as if you won money at a casino.
Yeah.
On all of the gains in this stuff, and you get taxed at like 40% on gains you win at a casino.
But only when you sell it, right?
Only when you sell it, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as like capital gains on a stock trade too, right? So if it's in a money market account and you sell a stock, you're required to report that on your taxes. Same type of thing, right? You're making money off a trade, you got to report it because you made money, and the government wants a cut.
And how will they know? I mean, they'll know that a certain amount hit your bank.
It's a public ledger.
Yeah, it's public. Okay, so I can go in there at any time and see what Chad has. Or how do you access the public ledger? Is there a ledgerman?
Good question.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't always necessarily say Chad. Here's Chad, and here's his social security number. It's this UUID.
It's the address of. It's like your wallet address, right? So
okay,
but I mean, like the transactions are all there. They can't be changed in the past, right? So once it's on the block, sorry, I didn't even explain that about the blockchain either. So once you make a transaction, it gets added to the tail of the blockchain, and then the next transaction goes after that. So you can't change history, right? it's because
It's
and
maintained forever in that
the
specific
reason
order.
for that is that the previous transaction is baked into the next transaction as far as like some of the encryption stuff. I know I didn't say any of that, but that's how it's maintained. So it has a reference back to the previous transaction, and as you go longer and longer, I mean, like it just it's all tied back to history. So you can't edit it, right? You can't go back.
So it would have to have like, it'd have to have the pedigree.
Yeah.
With the entry.
Yeah.
The checksums all the way down the chain have to match, right? Like that's a way to conceptualize it. The checksums on every transaction compared to the previous one, every single thing has to match. And we say like this thing's going to go on forever. It is, but that's like it's not like Katamari, right? Like it's not this big, it's tiny little transaction IDs that have to just match up. Yeah, and it's actually like super cool, right? Like I don't know if you've read about any of the other ways that people can use blockchain aside from just a ledger for transactions, but like there's a lot of crazy ideas when it first caught fire. Like, reporters could use blockchain to authenticate different stories. Like, yeah, no, I'm really this person, right? Like this is as a journalistic integrity kind of thing. My niece was looking into using blockchain to just say, yeah, these are real people. These are real events. This is really the sequence that this all happened. I don't think that caught fire, thank God. But the concept of the blockchain probably isn't going to go away, and it's one of those things that it's a solution now that people can use for different. Well,
that led to the non-fungible whatever that
don't even get me
NFTs.
started on the NFTs, baby. Oh my God.
But they're just backed by Ethereum, right?
Oh yeah. Well, no, Ethereum is another crypto.
Another
They
crypto.
use the Ethereum blockchain, I thought.
Oh yeah, that could be.
So just quickly, Chad, if you could explain what an NFT is.
A non-fungible token, right?
And fungible means unchangeable.
Right. So, back when I was a kid, I collected baseball cards, right? And baseball cards, you had a thing and it was yours. An NFT, a non-fungible token, for the digital world means, hey, maybe you have, like the NBA is doing this. The NBA issues NFTs for like NBA player cards or NBA whatever. They'll create this digital content and then they'll issue an NFT for that content and sell it off to whoever wants it. So you can buy, LeBron James's digital rookie card or whatever. Jack Dorsey from Twitter issued an NFT for his first tweet, right? His first ever tweet, which was like @space testing or whatever, right? Like he didn't even, I don't know. So like that's what an NFT is. It is just any piece of digital content associated with an authenticated certificate of ownership, kind of.
See, that's what I don't understand is how you could. I understand like at point of creation, when there exists but one, creating an NFT to go with it to say this is the one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first one. This is the legit property. But creating an NFT now for something that was tweeted and transferred from server to server, stored, backed up. Like, what is that tweet? Like, how is that tweet a thing? Where does that tweet live? Is it like an idea of the tweet?
Let me explain to you the cloud. No, I don't know. Different.
But
Yeah,
like,
I
is
get
it the actual? It's just saying that. Really, it's saying that it's all NFTs, and they're basically all like Bitcoin.
They're certificates of authenticity, basically.
It's a way of saying that this particular Bitcoin, just to use a generic term for cryptocurrency, is this thing worth this much? So now your valuation isn't just generic Bitcoin, but it's actually coin by coin. You're saying that this coin represents the first tweet and it's worth this much.
Sorry.
That's
And
actually
everybody goes, yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, sure, okay.
As long as
And-
everybody agrees.
Yep.
Right. And then if you came out with another NFT and said, this is the first tweet, you'd be able to go back through the transaction log and go, or through the blockchain
Yeah.
and go, no, this existed before this one. You're a liar.
Yeah.
This is the first copy of the first tweet.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It
it's
sells for half.
This represents this digital thing,
Right.
this virtual thing. I mean, it might as well be an idea. This represents the idea that's in my head for this. This represents a sound I made when I was 5.
Yep.
And if people are like, okay, that's a thing, I'll buy that for $10.
I'll buy that
And if
for
you
a
can get
dollar.
Yeah.
If you can get somebody to buy that for
RoboCop.
$1, then you're $1 richer.
Yeah.
yeah. Actually,
Yep.
Kyle, you just accidentally explained NFTs better than most people have, and you don't even like the idea. That's actually pretty good, right? Like, it is a cryptological expression of ownership against a thing that doesn't
Anything.
exist in the physical world, right? And I
It
think
differs from the movies I buy online. Like, yeah, I own this. I can
No,
only
you don't.
play it through Amazon, but then everybody else can own it too, or rent it, or no, this is the thing. You own
Well,
this.
Except when Amazon changes their licensing agreement, you no longer can access it, right?
And then it disappears.
Or
it's-
Apple does for certain things.
Will they? I don't
They
think
have.
any of my stuff has vanished yet,
Not yet.
but it will. Yeah. Will they
There-
give you
there
a,
have-
and
there
then
have
you
been-
can't download it?
There have been things that have disappeared.
Amazon
Really?
has done that. Like, if you own a Kindle book, they will rescind your rights to that Kindle book. That's happened a couple of times, and it made big news when it happened, and probably isn't going to be common, but theoretically, it's a thing. I don't think you're going to have to renew your license to your copy of Armageddon, right?
I have complete certainty that I agreed to that by clicking a box or hitting
There
a button.
were, I mean, I don't
Right.
remember all the details, but there were legal, like, Microsoft challenges to what their license meant for. Do I own, a copy of Windows, or is it just a license to use Windows? Like, there,
Oh,
I
that
don't know
was a
how it
big
played out in
thing.
the court. Yeah, like that's exactly what you guys are talking about. It's like, well, is it just I'm permitted to use this thing, or do I actually own it? Right.
I used to get mad when I'd buy a game and levels would be locked.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no, I just bought this.
No, I own the game.
I own it. Give me the keys. Don't keep it from me. I bought the whole thing, all the levels, all the swords and different things. Give it to me. And they didn't.
What you
Had to earn them.
You got the Ultimate Edition and not the Platinum Edition.
Ultimate.
Who's really the dummy here, right? Like, you can blame
Usually me.
blame the players or the game. Yeah, I don't.
Did you get the annual pass, Kyle,
Yeah.
for extra DLC?
Well, that's, you look at how Microsoft, thanks to the cloud, has shifted. I just remember the torture of upgrades.
Yeah.
And being pressured to buy upgrades. Your software vendor calling you, hey, it's time, the new version's out, you guys interested? And
Right.
usually a straw man argument was made for why you needed to get a new version of Word that you've used the same way for 20 years. Just basic formatting of documents.
We've slightly changed the color of the red squiggle.
Yes. It's way better.
It's 30% more squiggle.
But it created this like you sell it once and then you're done. And it's like, okay, we've sold all these we can, really. Yeah, there's a few new businesses that spring up, but just this maddening release cycle that like gave Microsoft incentive to get things out the door, which cost people because they become the beta testers. It's like, it's hard to perfect software. It's extremely difficult and possibly even impossible to account for everything and to test everything. Yeah. So now with the cloud, though, it's a subscription service. We just give them, dollars a month, and
you get 1 year of Word.
we're paying way more than we used to for Office.
Yep.
But because we're paying a little bit every month, it's not that painful. We're okay with it. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I know that
there's no alternative.
You could buy things for games online. There actually would spring up markets for like digital upgrades. So like a special set of armor in Diablo. You could go into the Diablo store and people were actually like making money.
Yep.
Selling this stuff.
Wasn't what WoW was the same way, right? You could sell. They had a whole marketplace. I thought. I'm not a WoW player, so maybe I'm wrong there, but maybe it was Diablo. One of them had a whole marketplace. If I ground out the hardest dungeon to get whatever rare drop, legendary drop, like super rare piece of whatever, then you could actually sell that to like for real money to some other person who wanted that in their game. Was that Diablo or is that WoW?
I think it was Diablo.
I'm guessing all of them did it to a certain extent.
Then I think they shut it down because it was getting hacked.
Oh, was it EverQuest? Did they do that?
EverQuest was that? Yeah, that was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
one of those big early ones. But like what you guys are talking about is NFTs. Like having your little sprite have a different color on his chest plate has value to you. So you're gonna pay some kid that did that $5, right?
Right.
That's that's the kind of that is a cut of an NFT. You're not the sole owner of that, but you own a copy of it. You own a piece of that.
Right. And that is that is one of the things about NFTs is like are they going to stay valuable? If you think about the person who spent the most money on WoW or any of those game items, at the time it was probably amazing, but I don't know. Is World of Warcraft still going?
If the intent for them was to be able to play the game with those items and get that 5 minutes of extra enjoyment until you get used to it, then you're like, oh, okay. But if that's your intent, then maybe it was worth it to you. But if your intent was to sit on it and then resell it for a higher price and make money on it, and then it tanked or a new version came out where it didn't work, then you're done.
Right.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a risk with NFTs, just like playing cards. And the idea is it's demand, supply and demand. So you create, when there's a demand, you create scarcity, and that increases the value because of the demand. But at a point, where you've infused the market with so many of these things, the scarcity decreases, the supply increases, the demand goes down, and that's kind of how the whole economy works with this stuff. Over time, like comic books and collectibles generally increase in value if you hold on to them, but that fluctuates.
Yeah, and I feel like what's going on right now with cryptocurrency is a lot like what happened to Marvel Comics in the 90s, right? Like people started collecting them. Marvel started printing out, chrome covers, holographic covers, blah, blah, blah. None of those things are still all that valuable, right? You might have whatever. But it's starting to come back again. I mean, it's starting to bounce back, right? And the same thing with baseball cards, right? Like Topps, once they got popular in the late 80s and early 90s, they realized, oh, I can print out, 1 million Mark McGwire rookie cards just as easily as I can print out, 1,000. And people love those. So we're going to sell more of those.
Right.
And now Topps has actually gotten closer to the not NFTs yet. They're not there unless something happened I don't realize. But they do baseball cards again, and they build in automatic scarcity. Yeah. They build in little clips of a uniform that was worn in a game for a player, embed it in the card. It's actually bonkers. Or they have players' autograph cards. So like genuine authenticated autographs. All of that stuff is being built into the current trading card sets. I've got a stack right there, and I haven't gone through it yet. So
are you telling me my tops from the late 80s and early 90s, like, because I would get the whole set, is worthless, Chad?
I am telling you that actually, what I'm telling you is that I'll give you $10 for all of them right now.
No, I literally have a book size box. This
yeah.
Big of old baseball cards when I was a kid. I just sat on them. I know they're probably not worth what was paid for them, but there's a few gems in there. But yeah, I mean, it's a supply and demand thing. The Topps realized at that time that collecting or collectors thought it was a huge idea then, and then everybody started buying them, so they just pumped them out, and that dropped the value dramatically. If that was your thing, if you were trying to collect rare cards, good luck.
Right.
Yeah. So cards are kind of like that, comics, that kind of stuff. Then there's like Beanie Babies, Pogs,
I was gonna say
those trends that I don't know if Beanie Babies is even a thing anymore.
It's not. So cryptocurrency could very well be just the modern digital equivalent of a Beanie Baby. Probably not, because you can't you're not going to be able to buy a hot dog with with the Princess Diana purple unicorn Beanie Baby. I hate that I know that, but it
was a bear. It was a bear.
Was it a bear? Well, now I feel a little bit better about myself.
Bear.
I have a lower opinion of Jordan. No.
Yeah, that's okay. Nice.
I think he knows too much.
I'll tell you why I know that. My sister had one of her best friends worked at the Hallmark store and sold all the new Beanie Babies that came out and stuff. So yeah, I know that kind of garbage. So there you go.
It's genuine.
I wonder how the big transparent storage tub market changed.
Well,
if you would have invested in Rubbermaid right before Beanie Babies hit.
Well, okay, yeah, but I mean, Rubbermaid maybe, but a lot think about, I have an autographed baseball. There's already the clear case you can get around it, or a basketball. Same thing, right? You're just for a Beanie Baby or whatever. It's the same thing. It's just a different shape. So those things already existed, and I don't think they're Rubbermaids, but some company makes them already. But it probably did go up in value, whatever, just a little bit, because all the people are putting them in their little clear display cases of this is a really valuable thing.
Those Mylar comic book bags.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All that stuff. Protective. All the sheets for cards and protective.
I worked in a trading card shop for a while. We traded sports cards, Magic cards, Star Trek cards.
Nice.
So all the game cards and Pogs, and of course Slammers. And just watch kids blowing their allowance every week. They come in.
You know what the Slammers thing reminds me of is the spinners. The recent. I mean, it's already kind of done.
Fidget spinners.
Fidget spinners, man. It was the same thing. It was a craze, and you'd see a kid go into the store and drop $20 on fancy fidget spinners. What? Why are you doing this for a $2 plastic thing with some ball bearings or something? It's
a poor man's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You're distracting yourself, and then your emotions.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point there. Whatever.
It makes you feel better.
Yeah,
it's a distraction.
Tell us more about the Pogs and the Slammers.
Oh man, yeah. So the Pogs is a game where you stack up these things in a circle, and then you take your slammer and you slam it down on the stack, and then wherever they land, I don't know how that's all I know. I know that.
Wait, you didn't become an expert?
It's if they flip, dude. It's if they flip over.
If they flip over, then you win them, or they.
I think you get it. It's think of it okay, yes, you're doing the stack. Like, I never really played Pogs, but I do still own whatever little bits I had. Think of the game of marbles, right? So you got a circle, and you're using your shooter to get them outside of the circle.
Right.
Pogs is just, you make the little stack of Pogs, which is like a little circle disc. You make a stack of them, and then you take turns slamming it on the top, and whichever ones like come off and like actually flip upside down, you get to keep from that stack.
You and someone else would mix your Pogs together in the stack?
Supposedly, I mean, if you're just playing together, you know, you don't really have to mix them. But if you want to do it like old school style, like the marbles, everyone's gonna put their marbles in there, and whoever wins them, man. Yeah. Or any of the card games you mentioned. Like sometimes if you're playing like Magic the Gathering or something, you'd put up a card for the game, right? Like you'd randomly draw a card from your deck, and that was on the line for the game. That was your ante for the game.
Okay.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's like you
gotta
can
have some skin in the game. Gotta
have some skin in the game, man. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never really, like I said, I own Pogs, but nobody else did. So it was kind of worthless.
I won't fault you for owning Pogs. I won't fault anybody for owning collectibles and Beanie Babies and then having too many. Like, I understand that compulsion. And you get into it. You get into this stuff. And, you know, I collected Magic cards for a while, and I had the whole set of the first edition. But you're buying those packs, and you're just going through them like crack.
Yeah, I was in Magic the Gathering for a while too. Nerds. Yeah, I still have binders of that stuff too. Some of those are actually valuable though.
Sell them now before people give up on them.
Yeah, no, I should.
I did NFTs for each one of them, so they're worth even more.
I've already seen a Magic the Gathering card on Antique Roadshow, so that's how old we all are, and that's how old they.
Yeah, probably some of those first ones, or either the beta set or whatever.
Yep. They're a lot of money.
Was it a Black Lotus? Was it a Black Lotus?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you can play it immediately and then tap it as land or something. Like there's no casting cost, and then you can tap it. I'm just using magic words now. Tap that mana.
Tap it. I gotta tap. I'm gonna play an instant at any point. Any interrupts.
First in, last out. Instant. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I guess this is a good place to stop, since we've devolved into Magic the Gathering nerd terms.
Non-Bitcoin stuff.
That was the SDG podcast. Until next time, or no, if you want to get a hold of us, drop us an email at thepodcasters@solutiondesign.com. Until next time, say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.